Before the words, before the question, before anything is said at all, there is a smell. Anyone who has ever sat beside a charcoal fire knows it. Not the smell of burning wood, not the smell of a normal campfire, but something sharper, older, a smell that gets into your clothes and stays there long after the fire has gone cold. Peter knows that smell. He knew it weeks ago, on the worst night of his life, standing in a courtyard in Jerusalem, warming his hands over a charcoal fire, while the man he had promised to die for was being interrogated inside. While soldiers spat on Jesus, while fists hit his face, Peter stood outside in the dark, warming his hands over a charcoal fire, and told 3 different people that he had never met the man. 3 times while the charcoal burned. And now, on a beach in Galilee before the sun has fully cleared the horizon, he smells it again. He does not know yet what it means. He does not know that the risen Jesus has built this fire deliberately. He does not know that in a few minutes he is going to be asked a question 3 times. He does not know that by the time breakfast is over, everything that broke on that courtyard night is going to be put back together, piece by piece, beside the same smell that was there when it fell apart. He just knows that the smell is there, and somewhere, deep in his body, before his mind is caught up, he knows something is about to happen. His name is Simon. His father's name is John. He was a fisherman on the Sea of Galilee when a rabbi walked past and said 2 words that changed everything. "Follow me." He left his nets. He left his boat. He left a substantial fishing business, the kind that employed hired workers, and he walked away from it to follow someone he had just met. For 3 years he was closer to Jesus than almost anyone. He was in the boat when the storm stopped. He was on the mountain when the face of Jesus shone like the sun. He was the one who walked on water, briefly, and the one who sank. He was the one who said what no one else had said out loud yet. "You are the Messiah, the Son of the living God." Jesus gave him a new name for that moment, Peter, the rock. "You are Peter, and on this rock I will build my church." And then came the night everything went wrong. The Last Supper, the upper room. Jesus has just told the disciples that one of them will betray him, and that he himself is going away somewhere they cannot follow, not yet. And Peter, impulsive, loyal, certain, makes a declaration. He does not just say he will stay. He says he will stay when others will not. Even if all fall away, he says, "I will not." "Lord," he says, "I will lay down my life for you." Jesus answers him with a question. "Will you lay down your life for me?" And then a prediction. "Before the rooster crows, you will deny me 3 times." Peter does not believe it, cannot believe it. This is not who he is. This is not what loyalty looks like. He is the rock. He is the one who walked on water. He is the one who said, "You are the Messiah," before anyone else dared. And then the garden, the arrest, the soldiers, and Peter following at a distance, following but not close, following in exactly the way you follow when you are not sure you want to be seen following, ends up in a courtyard, in the dark, beside a charcoal fire. A woman looks at him. "You were with him too, were you not?" "I am not." Another person speaks. "Are you one of his disciples?" "I am not." A third person asks, "Did I not see you in the garden with him?" "I do not know the man." And then the rooster crows, and then the silence. And then, from somewhere across that courtyard, Jesus turns and looks at Peter. The Gospel of Luke says that Peter went out and wept bitterly. Now, it is weeks later. The resurrection has happened. Jesus has appeared to the disciples twice, and Peter was there both times. He has seen the risen Christ. He has heard him speak. He has seen the wounds in his hands. He was there. And yet, something in Peter is still not resolved, because John chapter 21 opens with a sentence that sounds simple, but carries everything inside it. Simon Peter said to them, "I am going fishing." 3 words. In Greek, it is 2 words, hypogohelion. I am going to fish, present tense. Now, tonight, without waiting for further instructions, without sitting with the uncertainty for another day. The man who was called from a fishing boat is getting back into the fishing boat. This is not a casual decision. Peter had left a substantial livelihood to follow Jesus. He had been away from the nets for 3 years. And now, resurrection and all, he is going back. Not because fishing is wrong, but because Peter is a man who needs something to do with his hands when his heart does not know what to do with itself. Because the identity of Peter the rock is complicated right now, and the identity of Simon the fisherman is the one thing still available. Because the call to be a shepherd of people feels hard to hold when you are the person who denied the shepherd 3 times in one night. So he goes fishing. The other disciples go with him. They fish all night. They catch nothing. And just as day is breaking, there is a figure on the shore. "Children," he calls out across the water, "you have no fish, have you?" They have not recognized him yet, but there is something in the voice, something in the way he says children, paideia, little ones, that is familiar without being placeable. "Cast your net on the right side of the boat." They do, and the net fills so fast they cannot haul it in. The disciple Jesus loved turns to Peter and says 3 words. "It is the Lord." And Peter, who had spent the night catching nothing, who had gone back to the only thing that still felt like it belonged to him, who had been unable to produce even 1 fish on his own, does something that is either very brave or very desperate, or both. He jumps into the water, not because he has words ready, not because he has figured out what to say. He jumps into the water and swims to shore because Jesus is there, and whatever comes next is better than staying in the boat. When Peter gets to the shore, there is breakfast waiting, fish, bread, and a fire. And here is the part almost nobody talks about, the detail that John includes in his account that is not accidental, the detail that is in fact the most important literary connection in this entire scene. The Greek word for the fire Jesus has built on that beach is anthrakia, charcoal fire. Go back to chapter 18, the night of the denial. Peter is standing in the courtyard of the high priest. John chapter 18, verse 18, says that the slaves and officers had made a charcoal fire because it was cold and they were warming themselves, and Peter stood with them warming himself. The Greek word there is also anthrakia. Anthrakia appears in the entire New Testament exactly twice, both times in the Gospel of John, both times in the same story, the story of Simon Peter and his worst failure and his restoration. Both times beside a fire. John did not choose that word by accident. He is writing with the precision of a man who understands that what happens at the second fire only makes sense in light of what happened at the first. That the smell hitting Peter's face on that Galilean beach is the exact same smell that was in his nostrils when he said, "I do not know the man." Jesus has built his fire out of the same material, not to punish Peter, but to restore him. Because real restoration does not happen around a different fire in a different place with no memory of what was broken. It happens in the same heat, with the same smell, in the exact location of the original wound. This is what Jesus does. He builds the anthrakia twice, and the second one undoes what was done at the first. Stop right here. Has anyone ever told you about anthrakia? That there were only 2 charcoal fires in the entire New Testament, and John placed them both in Peter's story deliberately? That the breakfast fire on the beach was built from the same Greek word as the denial fire in the courtyard? Drop a comment. I need to know if this landed for you. And if this kind of research, going all the way into the Greek to find what the text is actually doing, is what you have been hungry for, subscribe right now. This is what we do here every single week. Let us keep going. Because what Jesus says when breakfast is finished is still coming. When they have finished eating, Jesus turns to Peter, and the first thing he says is a name. Not the name he gave him, but the old name, the birth name, the fisherman's name, Simon, son of John. Not Peter, but Simon. Not the rock, but the son of John. In the ancient world, full names carried weight. They were used in solemn moments, covenants, commissions, moments when the full identity of a person needed to be invoked. When Jesus looks at this man beside the breakfast fire and says, "Simon, son of John," he is not demoting him. He is not taking the name Peter back. He is going all the way back to the beginning, back to the shore of the Sea of Galilee 3 years ago, before the confession, before the miracle of walking on water, before the new name. He is starting from the very root of who this man is, because what Jesus is about to do is not patch over the failure. He is going to rebuild from the foundation, and the foundation is not the nickname. The foundation is the relationship. Simon, son of John, do you love me more than these? More than these? The question carries a reference only Peter can fully hear. The last time Peter had made a comparison between his love and someone else's, it was at the Last Supper. Even if all fall away, I will not. Even if everyone else loses their loyalty, mine will hold. Jesus is not mocking that boast. He is offering Peter the chance to say something truer, something without the bravado, something that comes from a man who has actually run the experiment of how far his love reaches and found out. And Peter's answer is the most honest thing he has said in weeks. Lord, you know that I love you. Not, of course, I love you more than them. Not, yes, my love is greater. Just, you know that I love you. You have access to what is actually true in me. I am not going to make another claim bigger than what I can deliver. Now, here is where the Greek matters, and where almost everyone who teaches this passage reaches for a simple explanation, and where the honest answer is more interesting than the simple one. Jesus uses a word for love. Peter responds with a different word. Jesus says, "Do you agapē me?" Peter says, "You know that I phileo you." Two different Greek words, both translated love in English, and the question everyone asks is, does the difference matter? Here is the honest answer. Scholars who have studied John's Gospel carefully are genuinely divided. Some point out that John uses these two words interchangeably elsewhere, that phileo is used of the Father's love for the Son in John chapter 5, verse 20, and that agapē is not inherently a higher or more divine category of love than philia. They argue the words are synonymous in John, and the shift is simply for stylistic variety. Others read the exchange differently. They see Jesus reaching towards the highest form of love, a total, self-giving, unconditional love, and Peter, who has just come from the worst night of his life, offering what he honestly has, friendship, love, affection. I am your friend. I cannot stand at the summit where I claimed to be standing 2 weeks ago, but this is what I actually have to give. Hold both readings, because what happens on the third question is undeniable either way. The third time Jesus speaks, he changes his word. Simon, son of John, do you phileo me? He comes down. He meets Peter in the word Peter has been using. He stops reaching towards the summit and asks, "Are you my friend? Is there even that?" And the text says Peter was grieved. The Greek word is lupeo. It means a deep cutting sorrow, a grief that goes all the way in. And here's a detail that should make you stop. Lupeo is the same Greek word used for Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane. Matthew chapter 26, verse 37. He began to be sorrowful and deeply distressed. The word for sorrowful is lupeo. The grief Peter carries at the third question shares its vocabulary with the grief Jesus carried into the garden on the night Peter failed him. The text tells us exactly why Peter was grieved, because he asked him the third time, not primarily because of the word change, but because he asked the third time. 1, 2, 3. The same count as the 3 denials, and Peter feels every one of them. Lord, you know everything. You know that I love you. He is not arguing anymore, not making comparisons, not claiming more than he has. He is standing in the full weight of what he has done and what he is, and he is offering the only thing left. You know everything. You know what is in me. Whatever is there, it is yours. And Jesus does not say, "Good enough. We will talk about this later when you have proven yourself more." He does not say, "I will think about restoring you once I have seen some evidence of change." He does not put Peter on a probation period. He says 3 things: feed my lambs, tend my sheep, feed my sheep. 3 commissions, 1 for each denial, 1 for each question. And notice that the commissions are not identical. The words change. Feed my lambs, a word meaning to nourish, to provide food. Tend my sheep, a different word, poimeino, meaning to shepherd, to watch over, to lead. Feed my sheep. Again, 3 actions of a shepherd, each one covering a different dimension of care. Feeding, guiding, feeding again. Jesus is not just forgiving Peter, he is reinstating him. He is placing the flock, the entire flock, into the hands of the man who denied knowing the shepherd 3 times. Not despite the denial, but knowing about it, seeing all of it, and commissioning him anyway. Because the call was never based on Peter's ability to hold himself together, it was based on Jesus' decision to call him. And then, After the three questions and the three answers and the three commissions, Jesus says two words: follow me, follow me. These are not new words, they are the first words. The words Jesus spoke on the shore of the Sea of Galilee, when Peter was a fisherman named Simon, son of John, pulling nets out of the water with his brother. The exact same words that started everything. The whole circle closes. The man who left his nets to follow Jesus, who walked on water and sank, who said, "You are the Messiah," who boasted he would never fall away, who stood by a charcoal fire and said, "I do not know the man," is standing by another charcoal fire. And the first words Jesus ever said to him are the last words Jesus says to him in this gospel: follow me. Not follow me now that you have recovered. Not follow me now that you have earned it back. Just follow me right now. From here, from this fire, from this beach, from this particular version of yourself that has failed and been found and has nothing left to prove. Follow me. Here is what this scene puts to every person who has ever walked away from something they were called to because they could not hold the weight of their own failure. Peter went back to fishing. He did not go somewhere dramatic. He did not punish himself openly or make a grand gesture of repentance. He just went back to the thing that was there before. The boat, the nets, the familiar weight of something that asked nothing of him beyond the ability to cast and haul. Maybe you know what that looks like in your own life. The version of yourself that existed before the call felt simpler, safer, less exposed to the risk of being exactly who you said you were, and then finding out you were not. So you went back. Not dramatically, just quietly. Just, I am going fishing. Jesus did not wait for Peter to come back on his own. He showed up on the shore. He made breakfast. He built a fire out of the same material as the worst night, because the wound does not heal by pretending the fire never burned. And he asked about love, not about competence, not about a plan to do better, not about a timeline for rebuilding trust. He asked, "Do you love me? Do you even have that?" Because the commission does not come from Peter's strength. It never did. It comes from Peter's love. Whatever level that love is actually at, whatever word Peter has available to describe it, being directed towards Jesus. Feed my lambs, tend my sheep, feed my sheep. 3 denials, 3 questions, 3 commissions. The math is not accidental. The fire is not accidental. The name Simon is not accidental. Every detail John records is deliberate because John was there. He was the one who recognized Jesus on the water and said, "It is the Lord." He watched Peter jump in. He watched the breakfast. He was standing close enough to hear every word of what happened beside that second anthrakia. And he wrote it down precisely with the Greek word for charcoal fire connecting the 2 fires across 23 chapters, with the Greek word borrowed from Gethsemane, with the commissions that change across the 3 questions, with the last words that are the same as the first words, because the Gospel of John ends not with the empty tomb, not with a resurrection appearance, not with a theological statement. It ends with a man who failed being restored beside a charcoal fire and told to follow the one he denied. Follow me. The same smell is in the air on both sides of the failure, the same fire, the same beach. Almost the same question 3 times, but the answers are different now. Not because Peter is stronger, not because he has found within himself the agapē he could not produce when it was demanded, but because Jesus met him at the level of what he actually had, philia, friendship, the honest bottom of what remained, and said, "That is enough to start with. That is enough to build on. That is enough to receive a commission." The charcoal fire that smelled like failure was rebuilt by Jesus into the fire that smelled like restoration. And the man who said, "I do not know the man," and said it 3 times without flinching in front of witnesses, is the same man who stood in front of thousands in Jerusalem 50 days later and declared to everyone who would listen, "This Jesus, whom you crucified, God has raised from the dead." He knew who the man was. He had always known. And now the whole world was going to know it too. That is what a second charcoal fire can do. That is what it looks like when Jesus builds the anthrakia twice.